I'm Bob Reed, the Legion of Honor coordinator and the liaison with the French consulate. Today, I have the honor of introducing our Master of Ceremonies for today's event, Leah Pizzetti. I knew she was the right person to act as our MC today when she told me, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I have an emotional contact with the American flag. Ladies and gentlemen, Leah Pizzetti.
Thank you, Bob, first of all, for introducing me. I know today is not about me, today is about these two, and the amazing work that they have done with their lives. And we would not be here today without them, so I'm very honored. We are all very honored to be here today. This is going to be very special. So please rise, if possible, for the presentation of the colors. We're pleased to have the Nellis Air Force Honor Guard present our nation's colors. They will be accompanied by bagpipes played by Stuart Wishart from the Nevada Police and Fire Emerald Society. Honor Guard, advance and present the colors.
Stand by. Colors. Attention. Hut. Forward. Pumps.
The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by 3 generations of Grants. Our honoree, William Grant, his son, William Grant, and his grandson, also William Grant. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthems of the United States, and out of respect, please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem of France. Our 3 William Grants can please step forward.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would now like to introduce Ms. Dana Day, who will be singing our national anthem. Dana is a Bay Area native who got her start singing in the cabaret clubs of San Francisco. As a recording artist, she's recorded several dance music albums. She now lives in Las Vegas, and she performs along the Strip in many of our prestigious venues. Dana.
Present. Pumps.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Dana.
À nos enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. Contre nous de la tyrannie, le tendard sanglant élevé, le tendard sanglant élevé. Entendez-vous dans les campagnes mugir le féroce soldat? Il vient jusque dans nos bras, égorger nos filles, nos amants. Aux armes, citoyens, formez vos bataillons. Marchons, marchons, qu'en sang pur, et brève nous sillons. Aux armes, citoyens, formez vos bataillons. Marchons, marchons, qu'en sang pur, et brève nous sillons.
Thank you so much, Nelson. Honor Guard, retreat.
Forward, palms.
You may now be seated. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge some of the many special guests that we have here with us today. First, the Honorable Governor of Nevada, Steve Sisolak. Thank you for being here. Representing the Office of the General Consul of France, Honorary Consul for Las Vegas and Southern Nevada, Sebastian Thevenin. Representing the Office of Jackie Rosen, District Representative Dane Hudson. Nevada Department of Veterans Services Director, Kat Miller. Len Yelnick, State Commander of the Order of the Purple Heart. I also would like to recognize the past French Legion of Honor recipients that are here with us today. If you want to maybe give a wave when I say your name. We have Corporal Sel Dante. PFC Robert Stava. And William Dunsmore. Thank you all so much for being here on this very special occasion. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Kat Miller, Nevada Department of Veterans Services Director. Kat has a hefty bio that I'm going to attempt to summarize for you in just a moment. Kat is responsible for supporting the state veterans cemeteries, veterans homes, and veterans service officer program. She served 34 years in the United States Army, achieving the rank of colonel. Beginning her career as a soldier in the Women's Army Corps, she achieved the rank of staff sergeant before commissioning as a military police officer. She has served around the world to include Panama, Germany, Bosnia, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and commanded at company, battalion, and Army command levels, earning the distinction as the longest-serving brigade commander in modern Army history. Kat's 3 Pentagon tours include duty as the commander of the Army Corrections Command, supervising 6 correctional facilities and developing policy for the detention of unlawful enemy combatants. After retiring, she taught bachelor's and master's level college courses at the University of Maryland and the University of Nevada, Reno, until she was appointed by Governor Sandoval and later by Governor Sisolak as director. During her watch, the Nevada Department of Veterans Services has been recognized with 4 national awards for innovations in support to veterans, Guard and Reserve, active duty serving in Nevada and their families. Kat's education includes a Master of Science degree from the U.S. Army War College and a Master of Public Administration from Roosevelt University in Chicago. Please now welcome Kat Miller.
I don't know, which one should I go with? This one or this one? This one? This one. Okay, thank you. The experts tell me this one. Thank you for your kind introduction, Leah. Wow, look at this room. We have folks here from across the valley, from all walks of life, looks like from all branches of service. But what do I know about service in World War II? What do I know about their hardships, their accomplishments, their terrors, and their triumphs? But I do know some things that all veterans have in common. Love of family, love of country. We're all fast learners, we're pretty loyal, and we have a wicked sense of humor. Of course, perhaps our sensitivity, our hearing, and our sense of fashion could use a little work, but hey, no one's perfect. So with the understanding that my connection to Dean and Bill may be a little imperfect, let me share some thoughts with you about them and this award. In his memoirs, Sir Winston Churchill wrote that once the U.S. had entered the war, he knew that the Allies would win, that Germany was doomed, that Hitler and Mussolini's fate was sealed, and that Japan would be ground to powder. But while Churchill may have been jubilant, it was a long, long road from Pearl Harbor to Germany's unconditional surrender in May of 1945. A road paved with hardship, with hunger, with pain, with the loss of comrades, and often with death. The men and women who trod this path carried with them the hope of freedom-loving people everywhere. Young men who enlisted at 18, like Dean and Bill, were asked to push back a strong, well-armed, committed, and oft-times vicious foe. This was one of the darkest periods of our history, but because of their service, because of their sacrifice, we emerged from the darkness as a stronger nation. As I read Bill's biography, I noticed he participated in the crossing of the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen, and it triggered a personal memory. In 1996, my battalion was securing the Sava River pontoon bridge for the crossing of U.S. forces into Bosnia. Bitterly cold temperatures and an icy wind sweeping up the Sava River turned mudflats iron hard along the river and made working conditions almost unbearable. There was a tremendous storm that week, and our base camp was swept away when the Sava breached its banks. It was below 20 degrees at night and not much warmer in the day. And like the rest of my troops, everything I had was wet, freezing, and muddy. Our unit still had to man traffic control points on each side of the bridge. Most of the unit hadn't slept in 2 days, hadn't eaten, and were physically and mentally exhausted. Frankly, I was near the breaking point. When I had remembered what I read about the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen. This is required reading for every MP officer that goes to Officer Basic. The capture of that bridge had allowed 6 divisions to cross the Rhine River, shortening the war significantly. But unlike my troops, Bill and his comrades had been marching in the cold and on short rations for almost a year. Not days, surviving hellish battles along the way to Berlin. And for many who crossed that bridge 75 years ago, it was under a monstrous hail of machine gun fire, planted explosives, aerial bombs, mortar shells, anything they could muster. Yes, I was miserable, but if the men of the 9th Armored Division could survive Remagen, who were we to whine about the Sava? Later that night, a bunch of us stood around a burning pile of timber, smoldering with the lovely smell of diesel fuel. And I shared what I remembered about the crossing from my reading of the Ludendorff Bridge in Remagen. And you know what? 75 years ago, Bill, your horrific experience helped us find the courage to face those next few weeks with strength and dignity. We remember you, William, and we remember you, Dean, as generations to come will remember you. And Dean, your courage in the face of tremendously bad odds, both as a bombardier and navigator on a flying fortress and a POW, continues to inspire us. And as amazing as your military record is, the fact that you returned home and continue to serve your community as a teacher, a builder, a first responder is equally impressive. As was your work when you returned home, supporting those who had lost fathers, husbands and sons in the war. We'll hear more about Dean and William later. Perhaps someday the people of France won't remember the young American men who spilled their lives' bloods to defeat their oppressors. But they remember today. And your contributions are reflected on the face of every child who lives today, and every child born tomorrow, because you saved the lives of their great-grandparents. Several months ago, I was talking to a World War II veteran who said to me, "There's no one around me who knows what we did, what we went through. Sometimes I wonder if it made a damn difference." You know, every day memories of World War II, its sights and sounds, and the sacrifices borne by Americans' youth disappear. Nevada has just over 3,000 surviving World War II veterans, and we owe every single one of them our gratitude. Mr. Bob Reed and Council Thévenin, somebody help me with my French. That gentleman right there. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to recognize these wonderful men. I want to close by sharing an experience I had a couple months ago. I was at a baseball game, not a Little League one. This was one up north, another northern team. And during the 7-inning stretch, a stadium chair was dedicated to our POWs and our MIAs. And as you imagine, it's a baseball game, it was pretty noisy. And the announcer prepared to read the inscription. But when he stated that the chair was being dedicated to our MIAs and POWs and would remain empty until they all returned home, the entire stadium stood up. Every man, woman, and child went still. Thousands of people united in their respect for those who risked everything for the safety and freedom of all Americans. It's moments like this that give me hope that this wonderful country we call home will forever remain one of the greatest places on earth. And I know that you, and what you did, Bill, and what you did, Dean, for the world will always be remembered. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kat. I would now like to invite one of Dean's friends, Jason Frederico, to tell us about our first honoree, Army Air Corps 2nd Lieutenant William Dean Whitaker.
Thank you for being here today. Though I helped with Dean's bio, I did not know I'd be speaking. I'm not a public speaker by any stretch of the imagination, so I'm going to try to get through this without having an anxiety attack. Usually when I'm passionate about things, I'm okay to get in front of large groups and speak without freaking out. I did do the best man speech about 4 months ago, and I cried the entire time. So I'm going to try to get through this without being too emotional. I'm friends with Dean. We've become pretty good friends here in the last year or so. Went on the honor flight together. Bob, I have the mic. I'm just going to go ahead and take control, so I hope I don't have a time limit. Appreciate that. Since you didn't tell me I was speaking up here, I had that right? Had a great time with Dean. He's a phenomenal person. Have an affinity for all of these guys. So I've got to know Dean, obviously, on a personal level. I want to thank all of you. And congratulations to all of you for achieving this high merit. The other gentleman can't be here right now. His name is Jerry Deitch. Many of you in the audience probably know him. He was just in Normandy to receive the same award. He's not feeling so well, so hopefully he gets better here soon. What I want to do is I want to share just a brief story. This isn't to put perspective around anything that I experienced about a year ago with this, but it keeps it top of mind. And this is going to be a ridiculous comparison, so I'm not comparing the two. I run a nonprofit organization called the Gentlemen's League. We did a charity event, paintball tournament at Las Vegas Combat Zone. And I'll tell you, during 2 hours of paintball, if you've ever played before, it's extremely intense. You've got these paintballs flying at you, what they say, 200 miles an hour. And your heart is going 100 miles an hour. And you're running up and down different obstacles and such. And I fell and I cut my knees and I'm bleeding. I've got these paintballs flying by my head. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, this is wild. I've never been so scared. And this is just a game. To think about the things that these guys have done. Here it goes. The lack of recognition I get relative to what they've done for the country is mind-blowing. So I just want to say thank you. I'm going to try not to cry. I'm going to go into what Dean and I wrote. My point was is that being scared during paintball pales in comparison to being shot out of a plane at 30,000 feet and having Hitler tell you what you're doing for the next 7 months. Pretty hard to even fathom. The other thing I want to do is I want to thank the U.S. Army's 6th Medical Recruiting Battalion for getting Mr. Whitaker as sharp as he is today. Mostly original medals. He was excited to put this on. I think we're all excited to see him in it. Thank you to Mr. Grant as well. You guys both are phenomenal. So let me get into Dean's bio. William Dean Whitaker was born at his family's home in East Los Angeles, California on March 4th, 1925 to David Whitaker, construction superintendent who helped build Nellis Air Force Base, and Dora Whitaker, who was a homemaker until the death of Dean's father in 1944, just prior to his enlistment in the military. After her husband's death, Dora went to work for the Kohl's clothing store in California. During the war, Kohl's transitioned into the manufacture of parachutes. This would prove to be ironic just a short time later. Upon graduating from Mark Keppel High School in Alhambra, California, a young Dean Whitaker was fully aware of the war taking place in the Pacific and in Europe. Because of his desire to fulfill his military duties to his country, Mr. Whitaker decided to go with 3 high school friends to the Army Recruiting Office in Santa Ana, California, to enlist in the U.S. Army Air Corps in 1943 with the desire for himself to become a bombardier. He chose his career path with the Army Air Corps because of its relatively short schooling in transition to become a second lieutenant, which sounded great to him. After enlisting in the Army Air Corps, Dean was set to go to the Aviation Cadet Program in Victorville, California, but because his last name Whitaker is in the latter half of the alphabet, he was sent to the gunnery school in Kingman, Arizona in the interim. During this time, the gunnery school in Kingman was put up against the gunnery school here in Las Vegas, and Dean and his fellow soldiers from Kingman came to our dusty little town to show off their marksmanship. It was here that Dean realized he had a knack for shooting, and he ended up taking first place at the event and was awarded a silver ring as first place prize, which he still has to this day. After graduating from gunnery school, Dean was finally able to get to where he really longed to be, which was at the Aviation Cadet Program in Victorville, where he graduated in March of 1944. You're old, man. Dean was assigned to the 398th Bomb Group, 603rd Squadron, 8th Air Force. Shortly thereafter, he was to be deployed to Dawes Hill near Buckinghamshire, England, for final training before he'd see his first combat mission. During that first mission as a bombardier navigator, Dean and his squadron, flying in their B-17 Flying Fortress over France, set out to support the Allied forces during what would become the Battle of the Bulge. Well, at some 30,000 feet, the B-17 he was manning was under heavy enemy fire, and during the ensuing battle, the nose of the aircraft was completely shot out. See, you're a little more scared then than I was when paintballs were flying at me, huh? Safe to say? For these efforts, he received 2 things. One was fiberglass in his face and eyes, and the second, a Purple Heart he was awarded 60 years later in 2004. Dean would go on to fly another 18 missions prior to flying his 20th and final mission, which occurred over Merseburg, Germany on November 2nd, 1944. This would prove to be a fateful day and one of the worst in Dean's life. He and his crew were shot down by the German Luftwaffe, and several of his fellow crewmen were killed in action as they attempted to parachute out of their failing plane. Dean was fortunate in the fact that he survived, though he had enough misfortune to parachute directly into a prisoner of war camp, where he spent the next 7 months. He'd always wondered if a parachute his mother had made at Coles in California was the one that allowed him to escape safely from the plane he had jumped from. Upon learning of Germany's collapse during the war, Dean and the Allied soldiers who were still in prison were finally liberated. Prior to being able to go home, Dean and many other soldiers were being tended to medically, and at that time, General George S. Patton rolled into the German town and stopped to check on his wounded son-in-law. Dean was laying there in bed when the general asked him how he was doing, and Dean responded with, "Great, now that you're here, sir." Dean still cherishes that moment in their interaction to this day. Soon thereafter, Dean was able to go home. He was headed back to Los Angeles and could now be with his family. Because Dean's father had passed, his mother took on the role of both parents and raised 5 children on her own. Every son in the Whitaker family served in the U.S. military. Being an avid churchgoer and devoted member of the Church of Latter-day Saints, Dean was asked to speak to members of the church, many of whom had lost their loved ones during the war, to describe his time during the war and so he could be received as someone who was fortunate enough to make it home alive. Shortly after this time that he met his beloved wife of 72 years, Lucille, who has recently passed. They were each other's forever love. And their marriage is often described as the greatest joy of Dean's life. Lucille and Dean would go on to have 2 children, Jeffrey and Michael, and 6 grandchildren. After his military career, Dean enrolled in classes at the University of Southern California for architecture. He spent time as a school teacher, firefighter, and eventually a contractor building homes throughout Laguna Beach. Dean is an avid outdoorsman, enjoying boating, hunting, fishing, and many team sports. He is also a talented painter and swims every day that weather permits. For his service, Dean was awarded the Purple Heart, Air Medal with 4 Oak Leaves, Operation Overlord Medal, World War II Victory Medal, Presidential Unit Citation, Gunner's Wings, Navigator's Wings, Aerial Observer Wings, Bombardier Wings, potentially soon-to-be Pilot's Wings, and last but not least, the Prisoner of War Medal. One last thing I'd like to say before I give up control. Has nothing to do with military service. It's an exemplary human being. We were driving one day out to the restaurant at Pioneer Saloon, maybe 6 months ago. And, you know, what's your secret? 94 years old and, you know, just always in a great mood, always happy, never lets anything to get him down. Responded very simply with, "I love my life." He can go through what he's gone through in 94 years. Wife just passed away. Health is pretty good. But there's some things, right? To always have a smile on your face is as remarkable as anything, and I just want to say I really appreciate you, Dean, and congratulations.
I'm really happy to be here and I'm still alive. That is God's blessing. I would like to tell you two things, two stories. When I was put in front of Hitler to brag about being a young aerial gunner, it's hard to believe. I have a memory that won't quit. And I remember that so distinctly of him bragging, and I don't know if it was who it was, one of his helpers, about being a 19-year-old kid, Air Force, being shot down. That was an incident that I remember very well. And another incident is when Patton came into our camp. It was one of the main prison camps. The only thing they had were tents and one house. The house we used as a hospital, and I got to go to the hospital because I had dysentery, and they felt sorry for me. So I go to the house. Was there, the Patton, we heard his tanks coming from a distance, and said, "Boy, pretty soon we're going to be free." And sure enough, the tanks showed up a ways away, but the SS troops that were the big-time German police were shooting the regular Germans that were coming into our camp. They didn't want them to surrender, so they were shooting them, and Germans landing there, and bullets going crazy. So I jumped in. We had built a slit trench alongside of that building, and I got in that slit trench to be protected with the bullets. And one missed me about 6 inches. It broke the reeds that was with the building. So I stayed there the rest of the day. This happened when the tanks showed up. They noticed the shooting from it was a factory just out of the entrance of the camp, the prison camp. And the tank noticed it shooting, and so they leveled and blew that to death. That building just disappeared. But during that time, you know, the Nazi flag was flying. Well, as soon as they're burned up, the troops put the American flag up. What a day. Great day. It was a great day for a couple of incidents that happened right then. A soldier came into the camp, and his brother was a prisoner. Well, he was going to do us a favor. He goes out and shoots a deer. We were up in the mountains, and brings the deer back for us to eat. We did that, and we were sick. We just couldn't take that meal. And so we went on hospital rations the rest of the time I was there, and waiting for an airlift out of the camp. I went out of the camp. We were really close to the prisons that the Germans had for all the Jews, and they were walking the streets, and we felt sorry for all the people. And so, anyway, the war ended there when that American flag went out. Thank you.
Presenting the biography of Private First Class William Grant will be Air Force Sergeant ALFREDO Caballero. Thank you. Sergeant Caballero joined the Air Force at the age of 18 and is in his 14th year of service to our country. From 2011 to 2016, he was in the Air Force Honor Guard in Washington, D.C., where he was introduced to the Honor Flight Network.
Thank you, thank you. First and foremost, Mr. Bob Reed, thank you. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for this honor. This is awesome. This is completely awesome to me. Thank you for your service. The message I want to send here is that your actions are not going in vain. That future generations, such as myself, as an immigrant, appreciate it. I really thank you. So, moving on, because it's not about me. So, I'm here to read the bio for Private First Class William Grant, United States Army. Born October 4th, 1925 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he left high school without telling his parents. He enlisted in the Army on September 15th, 1943. He was sent to Fort Benning and then to Camp Shelby, Mississippi, where he trained in the swamps for action in the Pacific. Well, that abruptly changed in April 1944 from the Pacific to the European campaign. After landing in Normandy on July 12th, he was marched to St. Lo, France as part of Company F, 2nd Battalion, 60th Infantry Regiment, 9th Division, where as a member of the Go Devils, fought in the Battle of Hedgerows. After the breakout at St. Lo, the 60th Infantry rushed south during Operation Cobra and relieved the battered 30th Infantry Division that had been surrounded by the Germans. From August 12th to the 21st, he fought in the Battle of Palais Gap, where the casualty rate was very high. In just 10 days, his company went from 180 men to just 9 men and 2 officers. It was here that he was put in charge of a machine gun squad. For his action during this time, he was awarded the Bronze Star for gallantry. During the push across France, his appendix burst, and he was flown to England for surgery. When he rejoined his unit a week later, they were in the town of Monschau. A week later. Just across from the Siegfried Line. After a few weeks, they were part of one of the bloodiest battles of the war, the Battle of Hürgen Forest. It was here during an artillery barrage that he was wounded and received his Purple Heart. For their actions during this battle, his regiment earned their 3rd Presidential Unit Citation. After months of recuperating, he was sent back to the front line. On January 1st, he was part of the Battle of the Bulge, where the Go Devils crossed on pontoon bridges to capture the Schromenel Dam. During the night march on the 8th, 1945, they encountered heavy machine gun artillery and fire as they crossed the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen. This battle also featured the first use of a jet aircraft by the Germans. Private First Class Grant participated in 5 major battles: Normandy, Northern France, Rhineland, Ardennes, and Central Europe. For his service, Private Grant was awarded the American Campaign Medal, the European African Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with 5 Bronze Stars, the World War II Occupation Medal, the World War II Victory Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, and the Purple Heart. Mr. Grant worked for the Social Security Administration for 35 years until he retired. He is now currently a proud resident of our fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada.
We could make documentaries about both of you. Multiple, it could be a whole series. All right, here's more French. Bear with me. Born and raised in Cannes in the south of France, Sébastien Thevenin completed an MBA in Marketing and Business Management and began his career in the world-famous Sophia Antipolis European Technology Park, working in the pharmacology industry for France and North Africa. He relocated to Grenoble in the French Alps in 2004 and started working as a lighting designer for events and shows. While there, he became a city councilor in charge of cultural and tourism development. Sebastian Stevenin moved to the United States in 2015 to challenge himself even further. He's currently in charge of opening a new business unit in Las Vegas for a world leader in modular exhibit and event solutions. Sebastian was appointed Honorary Consul of France for Las Vegas and Southern Nevada in June 2018. Sebastian.
All right, thank you everybody. Thank you, Leah. Good afternoon everyone and welcome. So, dear distinguished guests, dear veterans, Mr. Governor, dear friends.
I wonder, could I have a few moments to address the audience?
Of course.
Well, first of all, I feel very honored to receive, this medal from France. And I want to, first of all, thank the French Republic for making this award ceremony possible. I think too many people have forgotten World War II and what it stood for. And I think that there should be more ceremonies of this type to honor what happened in World War II. You cannot begin to believe the casualty rates that we suffered. They mentioned August when I fought in the Battle of the Fillet Gap. Well, following the Fillet Gap, I had an attack of appendicitis, and I was sent to the hospital in England for a diagnosis. Well, they already mentioned that my company during the Fillet Gap had been reduced from 180, 190 men down to just 2 men and 2 officers and 9 men of the original company. Every day we got new replacements, and they disappeared as fast as you could count them. I was put in charge of the machine gun squad. I was 18 years old, and I was supervising kids that came in after me that were in their 30s and late 20s, but I did my job, and I was awarded the Bronze Star for that. But then following that, I had an appendicitis attack, and they sent me to the hospital for a diagnosis. When I came back, about 2 weeks later, I joined my division we had just entered Germany at that time. I joined my division, and I discovered that my whole battalion had been annihilated crossing the Meuse River while I was in the hospital on the appendicitis attack. So every man that I joined with that company was absolutely new. I knew nobody there. I was the company. So that gives you an idea of the casualty rate that we had. And that was one of the better moments. But anyway, I just wanted to again thank the Republic of France for holding these ceremonies and bringing attention to the fact that World War II was a hell of a war. And you can't believe the casualty rates that we suffered. My last duty station was at Remagen, when we crossed the bridge at Remagen. And my last act as a soldier was, I was the radio man for my platoon, and my lieutenant was what they called the G3. He was the intelligence officer for the company, and he was interrogating a German that we had captured. and a shell came through the wall and exploded, and I ended up with parts of that German all over my uniform. And I went down in a dead faint, and I woke up in an aid station much later, and that was my last action in battle. I really don't know what happened to me. I blanked out after the shell hit. But I was never awarded another Purple Heart for that because there wasn't a scratch on me. But, I mean, those are the things that happen in battle. But I just wanted to again commend the Republic of France for having these ceremonies and bringing attention to something that too few people even remember. I've had children in high school, when they talk to me, they think that we started World War II. I mean, that's how much information they get in class. They devote about a half a day to discussing World War II in most high schools. I think it's something that needs to be brought to the attention of the American people. Thank you.
Thank you, William. I'm deeply honored to be with you today. And first of all, I would like to thank Robert Reed for putting together this ceremony. Dear Bob, I'd like to also thank you for your unconditional and long-standing friendship with the Consulate General of France in Los Angeles and the Consular Agency of France in Las Vegas and Southern Nevada. In a few weeks, on November 11, many countries throughout the world will remember their veterans and the sacrifices they made to defend and preserve their nation's freedom. In the United States, we call it Veterans Day, and in France, Armistice Day. France and the United States were critical allies in World War I and World War II, and the strong alliance continues today. We are a nation, a people who remember our heroes. We never forget their sacrifice, and we believe that it's never too late to say thank you. That's why we are here this morning. It's been said that where there is a brave man in the thickest of a fight, there is the post of honor. Today, we pay tribute to two brave men who placed themselves in the thick of the fight again and again and again. In so doing, they've earned France's highest decoration, the Legion of Honor, and we are extraordinarily, that word is hard for me. And we are extraordinarily, but I'm not going to do it. And we are very proud. William Dean Whitaker, 2nd Lieutenant, Army Air Force, and William Grant, Private First Class of the U.S. Army. Please give them a round of applause. As young men, you left your home to fight and liberate not only France, but the whole European continent and defend democracy and human rights. You fought helping liberate a continent, building a just peace, and upholding the right to be free. Your service helped change the tide of human history and deepen the bonds between our nations. Your accomplishments during World War II are a vibrant reminder of the profound friendship between France and the United States. A friendship bound in bloodshed and hardships, ever since the War of Independence. From the glorious days of Yorktown to the green battlefields of Château-Thierry, from the beaches of Normandy to the mountains of Afghanistan, our countries have been fighting side by side for freedom. Freedom is a gift that does not come without a price. It requires determination and sacrifices. The French people will never forget that you helped restore their freedom. Never. Your courage and dedication are an example to us all. You are the examples of the greatest generation which faced the despair and deprivation of the Great Depression, went on to fight for freedom and human rights during the Second World War, rebuilt Europe and Japan, and invented a freer, more democratic world after the war. You remind us that no matter how great the challenge, it can be met with honest men and women stand up with determination and courage. You are an inspiration to us all and to the younger generations. Today, we also honor the memory of your comrades who made the ultimate sacrifice. We remember their courage and their devotion in the face of adversity. We remember that they are an unbreakable link in the long chain of friendship between our two countries. They will remain forever in our hearts. So on behalf of the French government and the people of France, I would like to say very sincerely and from the bottom of my heart, thank you and merci. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your heroism. Thank you for your sacrifices. Gentlemen, it is a privilege for me to express to you the gratitude of the people of France by bestowing upon you the highest distinction in France, the Legion of Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to pay tribute to two exceptional men whose dedication embodies our shared history and values. Since it was founded by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1802, the Legion of Honor has been France's highest award and one of the most coveted distinctions in the world. This is precisely why President Macron has decided to bestow upon you this very prestigious distinction that I am now going to present you on his behalf. In recognition of your heroic actions and extraordinary accomplishments, the President of the French Republic has appointed you to the Legion of Honor. All right, let's do it. Too many things.
Monsieur William Dean Whitaker, au nom du président de la République française et en vertu des pouvoirs qui me sont conférés, je vous remets les insignes de chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. Mr. William Dean Whitaker, in the name of the President of the French Republic and under the powers conferred upon me, I name you today Knight of the Legion of Honor.
Attaboy, Dean.
Merci.
Monsieur William Grant, au nom du président de la République française et en vertu des pouvoirs qui me sont conférés, je vous remets les insignes de chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. Mr. William Grant, in the name of the President of the French Republic and under the powers conferred upon me, I name you today Knight of the Legion of Honor.
I most humbly accept this award, and I'd like to dedicate it to all those young men who fought with me in France and who never lived to see their 94th birthday, as I did yesterday.
All right, gentlemen, again, France thanks you for your service, and I thank you for your service. Long live the United States of America. Long live the French-American friendship. Vive la République et vive la France. With that, we conclude the formal ceremony, I guess. Let's give our Legion of Honor recipients another big round of applause.
We're not quite done yet. A couple more people would like to say something to the official ceremony and stuff. Let's see, Governor Steve Sisolak, would you like to say something?
Thank you, and you've been here a long time, and I will keep my remarks brief. Good afternoon, and I thank you for being here, and I am truly humbled and honored to be in the company of two such fine gentlemen. And as it was said, we need to do more to educate our youth and our community on their sacrifices, and not just to honor the folks that are still alive, but to honor those that sacrificed, made the ultimate sacrifice, as was said, and didn't come back from World War II, that gave so much to freedom. Established by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1802, the Legion of Honor is the highest distinction bestowed upon those who provide distinguished service to the French Republic and who uphold the ideals of liberty and equality. Non-French citizens who have upheld these ideals may receive the honor and be appointed as a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor. This includes American and British veterans who served in either World War I on French soil or during the 1944 campaigns to liberate France. Dean Whitaker and William Grant have been recognized as American heroes for decades, and it's truly deserved. And today, they join the ranks of the individual France considers to be heroes, to include U.S. Army Generals Dwight D. Eisenhower and George S. Patton, as well as General Billy Mitchell, the father of the U.S. Air Force. Dean Whitaker flew 20 missions as a U.S. 8th Air Force bombardier and navigator on the B-17 Flying Fortress before being shot down. The mission of the U.S. 8th Air Force was to destroy Germany's ability to wage war by carpet or precision bombing high-value targets. The average age of its crew was 22 years old, and Dean was just 19 when he and his crew were shot down by German Luftwaffe. Fortunately, by the grace of God, Dean lived to see another day and came home to his family. At the height of the bombing, crew members had a 1 in 4 chance of survival. William Grant's tour of Europe included some of the most horrific battles in history. They included the Battle of the Bulge, the breakout at St. Lo, and the Battle of Hurtgen Forest, the longest single battle the U.S. Army has ever fought. Bad weather created cloud cover and muddy morass that limited air and tank support. Dense forest canopy limited the effectiveness of artillery and mortar fire. In short, an infantryman's nightmare. Many women and men honorably served in our armed forces during World War II, but Dean and William went above and beyond the call of duty. Without the courage, dedication, and sacrifice of the great generation, the greatest generation, the French flag might not fly today, and the entire world would be much different. On behalf of the state of Nevada, as its governor, I'm honored to congratulate you and thank you for your service to our country and to our state. Thank you for your service, and most we never forget. God bless you. I won't read this proclamation.
Thank you so much, Governor. Now, representing the office of Senator Jackie Rosen, District Representative Dane Hudson.
Well, thank you so much for having us today. Thank you to the Nevada Department of Veterans Services and to the council for allowing our office to be a part of this event. I'll be brief because I know everybody's been here for quite a long time, but it's been absolutely an honor to sit in this room with you two gentlemen and hear about things that you achieved. And I will again echo the call that we need to renew our efforts to make sure that the youth are educated about what's going on, or what has gone on in American history, especially when it comes to World War II. So with that, thank you so much. And on behalf of the Senator, I wanted to present both of you with certificates of special congressional recognition for receiving this honor today.
And now representing the office of Congresswoman Dina Titus, District Representative Daniel Carranza.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy here on behalf of the Congresswoman. She couldn't be here today, but she wanted to show her appreciation for you two gentlemen. If we look back at history, and we look back at these wars and these engagements, and these days that will continue to live on in infamy, we were taught back then what exactly it meant to serve. And these gentlemen here have paid their debt to society tenfold, and that's why it's my honor and privilege here as a veteran to give them a certificate of special congressional commendation in recognition of receiving the French Legion of Honor. So, thank you.
And now Len Yelnick, State Commander of the Order of the Purple Heart.
This will be brief. George Washington created America's oldest decoration of valor, the Purple Heart, in 1782. It's for individuals that have been wounded or killed in combat. And I've got a little token from the challenge coin I'm going to give each of you, which came from our national convention in Las Vegas a couple of years ago.
Again, we would like to thank our public officials and veterans organizations for the recognitions that has been bestowed upon our honorees here today. Thank you all so much. A couple more more things. I think this is a great way to end things today, but I would like to invite a 2018 recipient of the French Legion of Honor forward, Corporal Sell, who will lead everyone in singing a verse of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Trumpeter Lance Phelps plays taps and remains standing for a moment of silence to honor all of the men and women in the military who throughout the history of this great country gave their last full measure so that we can gather here today as free people. Thank you. Now you may be seated. Bye.
Thank you, Leah. Doing an outstanding job today. We appreciate that. Okay. Once again, I'd like to thank our honorees and all of our current men and women that are here today that are serving, and all of our veterans. Thank you very much. We are so proud of you. Yeah. And a very special thank you for Governor Sisolak for taking time out of this busy day to come here to honor these men of the greatest generation. Also, I'd like to thank Michael Hall, who's the executive director of the National Atomic Testing Museum, and his staff for helping put this together in this great venue. We appreciate that too. Thank you. And also thank you to my friend, Sebastian Severin. Is that close? Yes. And who always comes to these French Legion of Honor ceremonies, though I'm getting less and less World War II veterans that are receiving this honor. I only have 2 now that are in the, shall we say, in the pipe waiting to receive the honor. So hopefully if any of you know of any World War II veterans that are living that actually saw some sort of action either in the air, on the ground, or on the water in France during World War II, and they don't have to live here in Vegas, let me know, because we'll go ahead and see if we can get them this honor. Okay? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony today. We certainly appreciate you attending to honor these fine men. And if I could have the families and honored guests up here so that we can do some photos, we'd certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful weekend.